button. And also, throughout the day, we encourage you to ask questions, to make comments, and to be part of the conversation. So we encourage you to take part in the chat and interact. And as I just mentioned, please do make sure that you keep yourself muted. And when you are not speaking, this will reduce the noise to the minimum. And if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, just please be respectful of all speakers and contributors. And finally, as I just mentioned, there will be an opportunity throughout the day for you to ask questions or make comments. So we encourage you to make use of the chat function, to ask any questions or to make any comments that you might have. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand it over to Marie to do the formal introductions and to today's launch, and also introduce the team behind this project. So over to you, Marie.
Well, thank you, Ahmed, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to this celebration of International Migrants Day 2020. We're here to celebrate the contributions of migrants all over the world to our societies, to our knowledge, to our understanding, to art and to creativity. And we're delighted that you can join us in the launch of this exhibition. It's the first time anyone's seeing it today. And it's called Unlocked Archive. And you might be wondering, what is this archive that we're unlocking? So just a little bit of background. Since lockdown in March, a small group of us, refugees, academics, artists and activists, we've been chronicling COVID from the margins. And we've been capturing images, videos, audio, music around the migrant and refugee experiences during the pandemic. And this project has kept us all sane, I'd say. We work through our trusted networks of family and friends, locally and translocally, and that helps to ensure privacy, confidentiality, and security. And between us and our contributors, 15 languages are spoken. And that's quite crucial to enabling a broad participation. And we've worked very locally. I think one of the things COVID has done is to intensify our local lives, while digitally our ever expanding global lives seem to be in a kind of weird dynamic. So we've worked with a range of groups, from the destitute and undocumented groups in The Hague to asylum seekers and care workers in Swansea. We've worked with Syrian refugee women in Zaatari and Azraq camps in Jordan. And we've worked with solidarity groups and refugees in Mytilene, the island of Lesbos in Greece. So the cultural artifacts that we've shared are the raw materials of stories. Of course, that is until somebody reads them and makes sense of them. And we're collecting and cataloguing and classifying a large multimedia archive. So far, about 1,000 items already, and it's growing all the time. And the co-curation of the materials, that means the selecting, the ordering, the framing, in very different digital spaces, is allowing us to present alternative histories and alternative narratives of COVID, and to make some interventions in the politics of representation. So the online exhibition space is very intimately linked to our project website, COVID-19 Chronicles from the Margins. And as today is more about showing you the exhibition rather than telling you about our project, if you're interested in the research questions, in the methodology that we're using, and if you're interested in our wonderful blog series, then please visit the COVID Chronicles website. And I think Carlos will provide links to both the Unlocked Archive exhibition and to our project website in the chat box. So just to end, our collective work is today inviting a politics of hope. And it's based on our belief that COVID can open up opportunities for solidarity, for care, and for a new sense of common fate, both locally and globally. And our work and our digital spaces of transnational encounter and here today, we hope that it will nurture that hope. And by collecting these artifacts that speak of creativity, that speak of care, and speak of the efforts to make life beautiful, even in desperate situations, I think will come across very strongly. But at the same time, we want to critique the regimes of reception and the policies, the brutal policies that are based on detention, deportation, and destitution. And we document these and we engage governments and policymakers and organizations and partners in the struggle to fight these inequalities and social injustices that COVID has unleashed. And like Arundhati Roy has urged us to do, to see the pandemic as a portal through which we can imagine new social worlds. So now I'd like to hand over to our wonderful team who are going to introduce themselves. And so back to you, Ahmed.
Thank you very much, Marie, for this introduction. And again, good morning, everyone. And my name is Ahmad Al-Rashid, and I am originally from Syria. So I was born and raised in Aleppo in Syria. And I then moved out of Syria due to that conflict. And then I came to the UK in mid-2015. So just over 5 years ago, I arrived in the UK as an asylum seeker. And now I got the refugee status here in the United Kingdom. Now, why I am part of this project? I mean, honestly, I think, and to put it very, very simply, because I think the current lockdown, the current situation with COVID-19 somehow, reflects my life and the many millions of other people who have been living in displacement and living in uncertainty and living in a limbo over the past 10 years or so in the Syrian conflict, and many other people who find themselves living in a displacement, living in a situation of an uncertainty, living in a situation of limbo. So I found this project, something that I could relate to. And I have to say, it has been a really a breathing space for me to meet other people, to interact during this time of lockdown and isolation. So that's a bit of me. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Jenny to introduce herself. So over to you, Jenny. And also, if I could ask my colleagues to turn off their cameras and unmute themselves when they are introducing themselves. Over to you, Jenny. I think you are muted, Jenny.
That's a good start, sorry. Hello, my name is Jenny Williams and I'm a Welsh poet and cultural critic. For the past 16 years, I've been working with asylum seekers and refugees in Swansea and further afield. And I'm involved in this project as a founder member and long-term chair of Swansea Women's Asylum Seeker and Refugee Support Group, which started in 2006. A lot of the women in that group have contributed to this project. I also teach creative writing at the University of Wales, Trinity St David, and have run many fantastic poetry sessions with refugees. And I believe strongly that creative work enables a sense of dignity and connection. And that's exactly what the material collected in this really important archive testifies. The government's hostile environment tries to silence vulnerable voices, to turn people into objects which can be thrown away. But this is why, exactly why, this project is so important, because it reminds us of what we share through a simple photo, or a film, or a painting, or a song, a poem, a story. Thank you. And are you introducing, or am I supposed to introduce?
Thank you, Ginny. Thank you for this introduction. I think I'm just going to introduce it to. I'm going to introduce my colleague now. I'm going to give the floor to Carlos. Over to you, Carlos.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I am Carlos, originally from Venezuela, South America, living in UK now from 2 years. Sometimes when when I'm meeting people, I would like to see or to introduce myself, but I don't know how. As a refugee, as a professor, as a mental health supporter of everything, I don't know. I would like to say here in UK, and especially in this project, many people found their voices heard and understood. And my hope is through this exhibition, through this work, we can share and we can understand many people, not just suffering, but as well getting all the positive things and turning bad situations into new lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Over to you, Tanu.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanuja Hettiarachchi. I live in Swansea and originally from Sri Lanka. I work for East Ethnic Minorities and Youth Support Team, Wales, on a project which tackles digital poverty among sanctuary seekers. And I also work for Swansea City of Sanctuary on freelance basis. And I have volunteered in a few other organizations which supports asylum seekers, refugees in Swansea, including a women's group. I have always worked to tackle issues faced by sanctuary seekers in Swansea and beyond, all Wales, if I get it right. So as a support worker, I have gained so much experience. I have seen a lot. Therefore, I was invited to take part in this amazing project, COVID Chronicles, to share some of the real experience that sanctuary seekers face. And if you have ever been irritated or annoyed by this lockdown, I'd like to welcome you to their world. Thank you. And I'm going to hand over to Helen to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, thank you for that, Tanya. I'm Helen, I work for the Open University in Wales, so I'm joining you today from Mid Wales. I'm honoured to be here today and hear the amazing experiences and very moving stories from you all. I consider myself blessed in a way that I'm born and bred in Wales and have had a relatively pain-free life, and I do appreciate that's certainly not the experience for a lot of people we're going to hear about today. My part in the project is through the Open University in Wales is promoting the resources and learning opportunities that we might be able to assist with, and open up our areas of expertise to everybody, which is, after all, the Open University's mission, accessibility to all. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Helen. And now it gives me a great pleasure to introduce our team from the Netherlands. So Helen, over to you.
Hi. My name is Helen Hinchins. I hope you can hear me. I work at the International Institute of Social Studies in The Hague, and I've been here for quite some time. But meanwhile, I have a double life, which has extended to Swansea in Wales. Basim, do you mind just switching off your sorry. I'm really happy to welcome my team actually in Holland, and I just would like to mention some names when I start with this. The names of the people that I've worked with, just to keep it nice and brief, are mostly not real names, but we have three alumni, Richa Kumar, Charles Wadimba, and Dalmar Hamid, who I'd like to thank. And then from a number of countries across the world, literally from the continent of Africa right over to Kurdistan and Philippines, including Nepal and Somalia on the way, are Rita, who had a baby during the middle of the pandemic, Dino, who couldn't take part but sent poems and meditations, one of which I'll read later, Sarah and her brother Alan, and all they want to do is study. They shared numerous photos, artwork, music and films. Vicky, who told us how it felt to have a whole church to herself during lockdown. And last but not least, Jack and Joy of Filmist, the Filipino migrant solidarity organization based in The Hague, who've offered us a film, which we'll also see later. So thank you to all of them. It's been pretty moving. And I would like to hand over to Owen Griffiths, who curated the exhibition, which we're very pleased to share with you today, Unlocked Archive.
Well, good morning, everybody. As Helen said, my name's Owen. I'm an artist based in Swansea. And during the pandemic, it's been my role and privilege to work with the researchers that you've just met, as well as our global community of contributors, artists, writers, makers, mothers, fathers, and families, and to process the material in the many forms that it came to us, from images to text, audio files, films, poems, and to draw this content into an online format, which is co-designed and co-developed with this network. My role has been literally just to facilitate ideas and to explore the forms in which we could frame the valuable cultural and critical voices that we've been in dialogue with over the last few months. So the global and the local have been themes in how this has come together. A global community of artists and contributors through to a team of local-ish researchers, and then working with my colleagues here in South Wales, Stevie McKinnon-Smith, Oliver, Norcott and Marie, of course, in a hyper-global way to build this collaborative space. We wanted to explore a sense of cultural democracy in the way that the materials were presented, giving each idea and contribution the same value, whatever the medium or the age of the author. We also had to design a site which could be accessed on different devices, from tablets to phones, taking into consideration issues like digital poverty, data usage, and language. Many of the works we show here are documented or made using such devices, so it was important that we recognize the accessibility and the way technology was being used here. Another consideration for me as part of this team is how we develop the project in dialogue. What does collaboration mean in a project like this? And how culture and academia and artists often can appropriate the narratives of asylum seekers and refugees and appropriate these narratives into community projects, turning the experiences of people into material that they often have no right to use. We try to work with an awareness of this by gently framing the work and ideas we explore here. Unlocked Archive attempts to be a neutral space where the contributions and experience guide you through the spaces, letting individual voices speak to you as a viewer. In some ways, it's an anti-exhibition. In other ways, it reclaims the idea of what an exhibition can be and who can make an exhibition. So it's my job to take you through the site a little bit, and because I have a piece of defunct technology, I can't do this myself, so I'm going to be working with Ahmad here to guide you through it. So welcome to the site. This is the site that we've all been working on over the past few months. It's an evolving space, a catalogue, an archive of experiences of many people in very different circumstances and places. So there's a huge variety of work and perspectives on here. The main body of the site is a series of rooms. The titles of these rooms have emerged from the working groups and the materials we have been processing. So if we enter rooms, please, Ahmed. These rooms will continue to grow and develop over the next year or so. So this is a continually developing and growing site. The room titles are Home, Food, Creativity, Community, Care, Garden, and Walking. And as I say, these reflect the materials, interests, and ideas that we've been working with. We also have a cinema and a Vimeo channel, which you can watch films on, and a Spotify account and a playlist, which you can listen to a global soundtrack of music compiled by contributors sent from all over the world, exploring the importance of music in lockdown, but also cultural heritage and cultural expression. Lastly, we have a social page, which is called Social on the top. And this is the Instagram account, which also functions as a blog. So you'll be able to keep up to date with the project and follow the progress of this as we go along. So I'm just going to show you a few rooms and a few little pieces. So if we can enter, which one are we going to? Let's go into Home, please, Ahmed. Thank you. So this room explores the domestic, the temporary homes that many of our contributors find themselves in, and the realities of making a new home in a new country. And if we go to the number 11, please, Ahmed, if we scroll 11. And what I want to focus on here is that we've got lots of different contributions in this space from people adapting to life in lockdown. But I think what's really interesting is the kind of combination of the images of the camps and this as a temporary home to many people. And sometimes this sense of temporary goes on for many, many years, as we know. So these images from Lesbos and from Samos show us the cramped conditions in which people are living. So the idea of bringing this domestic and the home into this kind of space together, sitting alongside with people doing their homework or having haircuts at home and so on. Thank you, Ahmed. If we go back out now and into food, please, which has been a big theme that we've been working with. This room has been about exploring culture. It's been also about exploring food shortages and sharing food. Again, showing us how COVID has exposed the weaknesses in the capitalist system and the way that many people reacted to this through generosity, through cooking, through sharing food, distributing food parcels, mobilizing as a community in a time of crisis. Kids having fun and making strange and humorous meals and ways of eating vegetables at home. So if we can go to number 7, please, Ahmed, in this one. I'll let you scroll down. So we will obviously encourage everybody to have a look at this and to spend time going through these rooms. So we're just picking a few examples. This piece of work, this piece came to us from Helen and her community in The Hague. If we look at this one, we hear the voice of an undocumented person working for a well-known fast food delivery company. So we hear the experience of a migrant worker at a time where delivery services like this have been prompting many of us to think about who made the food we eat and how did it get here, who is delivering our lifestyle choices as we click another delivery option during lockdown. Thank you, Ahmed. If we go to creativity now. So this room, the next room I want to take you to is creativity. It's a mixture of work exploring skill, materials, creative expression, often pain and loss and playfulness are being explored alongside each other. One of the striking images here, I mean, we've got lots of different things from fantastic cartoon works, kind of political cartoons, as well as paintings and drawings, which we're still getting more and more of, so this will continue to grow. But if we go to number 19, just further down in this room, it's a striking image. It's a skillful watercolor. So just realizing actually in every community, there's a huge level of skill and interest. And this image sort of gave us a little bit of hope, this hammock, a watercolor of a hammock looking out over a new landscape, perhaps looking out to a post-COVID world. One of the things I can recognize in some of these works is an exploration of well-being as a form of creativity, which has been hugely important. If we go to the walking room now, Ahmed, we can go out to this one. Thank you. I'm going to jump now to this room, which is right at the bottom, room number 8. In this room, we explore our relationship to the familiar during COVID and the idea of the familiar becoming unfamiliar. you know, the chance to rethink our relationship to our local landscapes as we travel less and explored our immediate surroundings. And often those boundary of that immediate surrounding, depending on where you are, if you're in a refugee camp, that boundary is much, much closer. And obviously you're living in a much more precarious and frightening space. So this idea of walking as a really important kind of act of freedom, or a kind of human right in a way, is often taken away. So this room explores the idea of landscape and our relationship to these places. And I wanted to go to the number 11 in this piece, please, Ahmed, if we can scroll down there. So we'll see lots of different, again, watercolors, people exploring the beaches, and if they live near those, and often some poetry and things like that as well, all exploring these themes. So this, I want to talk about this work here, which is Playful Image. So this is, sorry, I've got a delivery guy waving at me as well. This is a playful image, but the accompanying text reveals the tragic reality of the life of a coal bar. The image, for me, has an ancient quality, almost like a cave painting, but it could also be a still from a paused animation. It takes us to a borderland and connects us briefly with a person and a reality of border crossing and the work of a coal bar. It's a moving piece, which I'm sure will stay with many, many people. So we encourage everybody to explore the site, just to remind you that these rooms will continue to grow and develop. And I'm going to finish with just the Arundhati Roy quote, which we used in the site to explore some of the ideas of lockdown and how we kind of articulating what we're trying to achieve in the site here. So Arundhati Roy says, historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and our hatred, our avarice, our data banks and dead rivers, dead ideas and dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through it lightly, with little luggage, ready to imagine a new world and ready to fight for it. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you so much, Owen, for taking us through this impressive, short tour across the digital exhibition. Now, what we're going to do now is I'm going to show us some of the materials that we collected from other contributors, from, as I said, from a very wide range, really, base of contributors who are spread worldwide. And I'm going to start by sharing one of the materials that I collected earlier on in the project. And this is a short video that came from a Syrian contributor. So I'm just going to get the video ready now before I share my screen, but just to give you a bit of a background really into this video. Now, the video itself is, the title is Lonely Streets. Now, the video is co-produced by a Syrian poet and also a filmmaker and another team. And the poet himself is a Syrian refugee who is currently seeking safety and sanctuary in Malaysia. Now, the poet himself, his name is Muwafaq An-Najjar, and I've been part of his social media network from early on. But it struck me when the whole lockdown started and coronavirus and more restrictions of movement, it struck me how, we felt that we are really, despite him living in Malaysia and myself being in the UK, that the current situation gave us an opportunity to rethink about our connections and how we relate to people. And I found this really important, something really interesting, because for me as a refugee who lived and is currently still living in exile, one of the things that perhaps made it a little bit bearable is the availability of media and social media. So I think this is something I found quite important, really quite significant to make it a little, I would say, less difficult. I mean, it's really challenging. It's really difficult for many of us, especially for those with digital literacy who struggle to contact others and keep in touch about others and what's happening around them, especially with the flood of information and media today and news, and constantly things are changing and moving. So I thought this short clip has been really interesting from the point of view of a Syrian refugee who is currently living in a lockdown situation, and he's now reflecting on his life and the current situation, and going back to the basics, to Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and sharing his thoughts and reflections. So what I'd like to ask you now is just basically sit back, relax, and enjoy the experience of this poetic film. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video, and the title is Lonely Street by Muwaffaq Al-Hajjar, who is a Syrian refugee currently based in Malaysia.
هي وحدها، هذه الشوارع وحدها، والناس في شرفاتهم غنوا لها. يا أرض، يا أرض إنا آسفون ومتعبون، يا أرض إنا آسفون ومتعبون وخائفون، وإننا في طبعنا المشي الحثيث، فكيف نبقى هادئين؟ يا أرض إن الورد أقبل، والربيع بدوننا كالصوت دون صدى. يا شوقنا، يا شوقنا للمشي دون هدى. الآن تحتفل الطبيعة، أثمر الشجر الجريح، وعادة الأرض التفوق. إننا يا أرض ندرك حجمنا، فهبي صغارك فرصة أخرى لنفرح. إننا يا أمنا متأسفون. يدنا التي سرقت غصون السنديان عبثت بعمق البحر، صارت نادمة ونريد أن نبكي ونمسح دمعنا، لكننا يدنا ملوثة ونخشى أن نموت. غنت مصابيح الإنارة أينكم؟ غنت قطارات المدينة أينكم؟ غنت رياض العشب أين حديثكم؟ نزهاتكم، قبلاتكم. غنت جبال الله أين عيونكم؟ وبدورنا صرنا نغني كي نحس بأننا أحياء ما زلنا وما زلنا لهذه الأرض ممتنين. الشعر يولد في الفراغ الآن، والفقراء أيضا في الهواء الطلق ناموا هادئين، هادئين وهانئين. تلك الشوارع ملكهم هم وحدهم، وكذلك الشعر الجميل يطوف من حي لحي، يستطيع اللهو دون توتر الشرطي، دون ضجيج أصحاب المعامل، دون أصوات البنادق، دون موت، دون خوف. فارحمينا يا أرض ندرك حجمنا، فهبي صغارك فرصة أخرى لنفرح بالربيع وبالقصيدة. أنت القصيدة، إننا متأسفون.
So that was one of the early videos that I received when I was collecting the materials from different members of my community, and it struck me, you know, and it also amazed me how now this community became international. I'm talking about the Syrian community, and as I said, hopefully you will get to see more and more of these videos and learn about other people's experiences as we get more and more materials. And you can always refer to our website and our exhibition space to learn more about what's happening, what's been going on there. For now, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Tanu to take us through her section. So over to you, Tanu.
Thank you, Ahmed. Can I please have my video on the screen?
Yep.
Thank you. So out of all the materials I've collected for this COVID Chronicles project, I chose this one image, one photograph that I took back in spring when we had the first ever lockdown in Wales. I named it Behind the Fence. This is just outside my doorstep. We couldn't go beyond, of course. And that day, I saw this wave a bit differently to any other day. So I decided to take this picture, and you can see catkin buds on the photo. And it's the springtime. Mother Nature was getting ready for a big change. It's the time that nature wakes up. However, as human beings, we had to stay behind the fence, locked in. I think we all can relate to this photograph, no matter who we are, no matter which background we come from, and it's uniform for everybody. So I just thought to be creative and write something with help of Jenny Williams, who's one of our partners. And let me take you through my poem. Behind the fence, here I am, behind the fence. In the distance, I can see space. The sky, the sea, beautiful mountains. Here is grey, beyond is blue. So much space, so still. Closer past the estuary, industrial estates and terraced houses along the road. And very close, the bridal shop. More houses and roads going everywhere. Closer still, movement, people, dogs, and cars. There are so many choices of where to go on the other side of the fence. Usually I'm desperate to go out. I could jump over this fence or break the panels, but today I have to stay behind the fence. Our world has come to stand still. Dale, thank you. And this is exactly the feel of asylum seekers who are trapped behind the walls. I just wanted to reflect that. Thank you. And I'm going to hand over to Carlos for his presentation now.
Thank you, Tanu. Over to you, Carlos. Carlos. I'm not sure if we still have you or...
Good morning again. Thank you, Ahmad. Thank you, Tano. I can see the presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I can see you and the presentation is up.
Okay.
Can you put on full screen, Ahmed?
Thank you so much. There's some lagging in the internet, so please bear with me and sorry. By collecting materials, stories, it wasn't a straightforward process because it involved lives, stories, communities, minorities, people that usually came to UK looking for protection, looking for a sense of security that was lost and leaving behind all their lives. So this short presentation is named Silence and Emotions because it's about how the people try to express themselves, not just saying, sometimes saying anything. Next slide, please. Dina Nayeri wrote, "It is the obligation of every person born in a safer room to open the door when someone in danger knocks." Next slide. This is a really moving and good example about what living here after leaving behind the motherland means for a family. The simple act of picking blackberries and transform these blackberries into jam and sharing with others could be something simple, but transforming into something really meaningful and relevant. So I quote that person telling to me, "Make me sharing jam with others is relief, just with this little act." And I think this a powerful act, as simple as sound. Next slide. This is another piece really interesting. It's an asylum seeker from Central America who shared with me, explaining that in their country, they are so used to see the people destroying things and many destruction around them. But now, by living here in Swansea, when we met, and transforming bike spare by parts into beauty pieces of wall clocks, they say this just far better making things, building things, than destroying. So a bike, in this case, is more than a bike. It's an instrument of transformation. Next slide. Especially for me, this is a really conjunction and really nice coincidence of language forms, because it came from a pretty young refugee from South America living in Spain. And she expressed in two short words powerful meanings. You know, corona word came from Latin. Same thing in Spanish, means crown. But in French, the common phrase, I am not a French speaker, but a French speaker told me, sécurité avec liberté. In Spanish, in English, in every language, we can sometimes feel the same thing. Why do we have to choose with freedom and safety? Next slide, please. I think the quote is self-explanatory. How can you feel when you need to abandon all your habits, your customs, your way of life by seeking asylum? Maybe you came with your family, or maybe you came alone, but the feeling for this contributor sum up. We can be together, but sometimes or many times we feel alone. Next slide. This last one, as simple as appear, is a reflect and talking with an asylum seeker from Central America. He was outside their home playing with his little son, and he was relating me. I am really in the limbo. I don't know what is about my case now. What will the future? Because during COVID and lockdown, all the cases get stopped. But he said at least my little children is innocent and is happy, and maybe this could be mean positive for the future. So we are outside with our own perspective, but from inside the house, the perspective could be different. Next slide and finish. Thank you so much. I hope these little samples could you invite to us to join, to share, to feel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos. And now over to you, Helen.
Hello, yes. Ahmed, you have a short film made by the volunteers of Filmis, which is a Filipino migrant solidarity organization in The Hague. So we'll just let the film show itself, and then afterwards I'll say one or two words. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'll just go ahead and get the film up and running. So it should be playing in less than 5 seconds.
As you see in my first slide, the photo of my set of keys. For me, the key is a symbol of trust. This is what binds my relationship with my employers. My employers have entrusted me the key of their houses, which means they have unquestionable trust in me. I, in return, have shown my loyalty to them by working hard to clean up their houses. I've been cleaning their houses for many, many years since they hired me. For more than a month during the lockdown, I had not used many of the keys. However, the corona pandemic crisis proved that trust is not enough for a relationship. It must be accompanied by act of concern and thoughtfulness. During the crisis, I found that only 3 out of my 9 employers had real concern about my situations. These 3 employers who had canceled my work paid me with whole wages for 4 successive weeks, while my other 6 employers did not pay me any single euro despite of canceling my work in their houses. Number 2 is that I like this photo because it shows that one of Filmis volunteers had distributed food packages to our fellow undocumented migrants. This photo was probably taken last May when we were able to collaborate with other Filipino organizations in helping out the undocumented Filipinos in our community who have been affected by the pandemic crisis. We receive help from big organization in The Hague to cope with the crisis. So we have volunteered to help others as a way of paying forward for the blessings we receive. Thank you.
Over to you, Helen.
Thank you very much. Solidarity, which is what Jack is talking about, it brings people together against various forms of oppression. When a system tries to keep people down, people get together, they help one another. It is a common response. So for many minorities, for oppressed people worldwide, being in solidarity with one another is also defending ourselves or defending everyone against isolation and fear, something we know a lot about under COVID. So that power to extend kindness, that produces a feeling that makes us fully human. And even if we're outnumbered and we're confronted with money, with power, with cruel asylum regulations, we can still feel that we can do something. In one of her texts shared with us, Sarah, not her real name, talks of how she responds to hope, that she sometimes forecloses it by not wanting to be disappointed. She hopes for nothing. And yet solidarity is a refuge for us against despair, for all of us, whether we feel we're a minority or not. We could be one day. So for those who say awful things about migrants, refugees and asylum seekers, I would say you're saying nothing about migrants, refugees and asylum seekers. You're only saying something about yourself. And I want to finish with a little poem from a participant who didn't feel able to take part, but who did allow us to share his poems. His name is Dino, it's not real name. He's from Algeria and he's been in the Netherlands for close to 30 years, undocumented. So here's his motto of the day. Some people look like gold, where others in your eyes are only worth a piece of wood. But there comes a time when you're close to drowning in the ocean of the trials of life and you realize that that piece of wood, which you instinctively cling to, is more useful and more precious than all the gold, which would only sink you deeper. I like it. Thank you very much. And I thank you for Dino for sharing that. I think that's more or less what I have to say. Happy to answer any questions later, but for me, that's all for now. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Helen. Really powerful. And I'm pleased now to give the floor to Marie. So over to you, Marie.
Hi, everybody again. And thanks, Helen, for those reflections on solidarity, because if this launch is about anything today, it is about a celebration of solidarity. And so I'd now like to highlight how important our partners, our project partners and our contributors are to us. And we've worked very closely with Lesbos Solidarity. As many of you are very well aware, Lesbos, like many of the Greek islands like Samos, they have been a gateway to Europe for many asylum seekers since 2015. And Lena Altinoglu, she's a founder member of this wonderful organization called Lesbos Solidarity. And Lesbos Solidarity is a beacon of light during these dark times. And it has developed practices of solidarity over a decade or more, from which many of us have to learn. And so we have been learning, we have been trying to understand what makes PICPA such a brilliant place. It's offered sanctuary, PICPA refugee camp has offered sanctuary to the most vulnerable of refugees suffering trauma, physical or mental ill health for over 8 years. And unfortunately, Lena's video is about 13 minutes long. So we're just going to play the end of it where she talks about solidarity. And just prior to that, she talks about the fragility of solidarity. She talks about the need for the agility of solidarity. if you look on our project website and put Lesbos in the search thingy, you'll be able to see Lena's blog about the spiral of hate, about how the far right have been consistently sabotaging Pikpa refugee camp, and how a brutal police evacuation closed down all the fantastic work that they had done. So we're going to come in now, Ahmed, towards the end of Lena's video testimony, and we will put the whole testimony on our Instagram. But for now, this is from Lena, one of our dear friends and partners on this project.
And this worked well. This worked like a miracle. It was a place where things happened, where people thought it was very important to have, until it closed down this year after a new policy saying that these places are not needed, where common understanding is created when people want to include, want to accept, and want to facilitate and empower refugees to stay and fight for a new beginning. Now, during all this time, solidarity is the base, no matter what problems and challenges we faced. But solidarity is not an easy thing. You may listen to miracles, words like wonderful and bonds, and how life-changing experience it is. But solidarity also faces moments of agony, moments when you say, we can't go on, moments when they close down something that people were building for 8 years, and you say, is this the end of the road? The answer is that once you understand that it is like, as my friend Marie says, a precious, solidarity is a precious flower. It needs constant care to flourish. But when it does, you always want to have it with you, to care, because there's so many other people on the same garden with you, and trying to make it become so strong that no matter what governmental decisions, no matter who is the minister, it will not be able to take it out of our lives. So here we are at the end of one road, beginning another one. Lesbo Solidarity is just, again, trying to walk the difficult path, trying to redesign all its activities to help people who come here wanting to start a new life. And, you know, like I think in every corner that you are listening there, this is what people, I wouldn't say should be doing, but this is what people doing, helping each other, going through difficult times, and especially this time with COVID also. We can do this together, walk this path. And this exhibition is exactly an expression of this solidarity. If you go around and see all these beautiful things, all these pictures, all these poems, all these stories of people, like Sarah's story, they are just uplifting and so empowering that we are in this together. And this exhibition is the best way to manifest this. And I'm so grateful. So to all of you, we will be here, we will communicate, we can exchange our stories, and we can strengthen our will to remain people helping people. Just that simple. Thank you.
So that was a very moving testimony from Lena. I think you can hear the emotion in her voice with the shutdown of Pikpa refugee camp and the work that they built up over 12 years suddenly destroyed, but the hope that they can continue in some form or other, and the need for the agility of solidarity. So sticking with the island of Lesbos, our contributors I have mentioned are so precious to us as well. And there's one in particular, Lena mentioned Sarah. Sarah is her pen name. And she's talking in this short video that she sent herself because she couldn't be here present, from a refugee camp in Lesbos. And over the last few months, we've been talking together and she's been writing. And she's an extraordinary 17-year-old Afghan woman who has become head of the household, who's caring for a sick mother, a father from whom they have escaped, and her 4 siblings. And she's been thrust into this adult caring role, having her youth stolen. It's humbling to read Sarah's story on our website. And please do have a look at the way she also, having told her story, then her mother wanted to tell her story because she wanted to be seen and she wanted to be heard. And so here's her message to all of you here today. So Ahmed, could you please show us the message from Sarah? Her real name is Zahara, but
Hello, my name is Zahra and I live in the Lesbos Island with my mother and my sibling. I want to be architect in the future, but I think I can be writer also. During these difficult days, I got familiar with Professor Mari, and I have been in contact with her maybe for 2 months or more. And she helped me a lot financially and spiritually, and I thank her and her friends who set up me. With the help of the professor, I wrote short biography of my mother. My mother has many diseases because she was bothered a lot in the past. And now she asked me to write her life story so she doesn't forget how much she has suffered. She never will give up, and she has to continue to take her children to their destination. I'm proud of my mother because she is so strong woman, and I'm proud of her, and I love her. And I thank all those who read of biography of my mother, and I want all the best for you in New Year. Happy and Merry Christmas to all.
thank you, Ahmed. And just a very quick word. When people read Sarah's story on our COVID Chronicles blogs, they were so moved that they started contacting us. And we were able to raise some funding to help Zahra and her family because they were threatened with destitution. When Moria camp burnt down, 13,000 people were made homeless and thrust on the streets of Mytilene in Lesbos without shelter, without food or clothing. And the money that we were able to raise through Sarah's blog has helped them prevent them from being thrust into the streets. So if you go to Sarah's blog, if you go to Lesbos Solidarity, or if you click on the donate button on our website, if you feel that this year you're not bothered about Christmas presents, maybe you might be moved to donate to either Lesbos Solidarity or another of our great partner organisations, Swansea Asylum Support. I can assure you that every single penny would go directly to supporting refugees. So now I think we're going to field some questions from you. And thank you very much for listening. Ahmad,
thank you. Yeah, so just before I hand over to you, Marie, please feel free to use the chat function. This is your opportunity to ask any questions or make any comments. And I believe we've got around 15 up to 20 minutes to answer any questions or if you would like to make any comments. And as I said, the chat function that should be visible in the depending on your system you're using, either on the top or the bottom right hand side. So please do make sure that you make use of this function. Over to you, Marie.
Okay, so I've been monitoring the comments and we've got quite a few comments around particular themes. So if it's okay with everyone, what I'll do is I'm going to ask different members of our team to respond to some questions around. The first one was from Caitlin Coyle and it was about digital poverty. And I wondered if maybe Tanu could talk a little bit about her work on digital poverty. And we have in our COVID Chronicles blog published yesterday a piece by Tanu and Tom Cheeseman and me about digital poverty. But perhaps you could, Tanu, say a little bit about your work. Caitlin was very worried about this issue of digital poverty.
Yes, thank you, Mary. I work for East Ethnic Minorities Youth Support Wales, and on a crisis project specifically started during the pandemic just to help sanctuary seekers with their digital poverty. So it actually came up as a discussion of most organizations support asylum seekers and refugees. We were so worried when the physical doors were closed for public for asylum seekers and refugees. We were so worried that they will be isolated, and they are a vulnerable group in the society. Usually we have food banks and other services operating for them to access. However, when everything depends on away from a phone call, or you need to go online to access support services, we came across this idea, and Rocio and some partners put together a bid, and we were able to help asylum seekers and refugees with a phone top-up. Not a lot, £10 a month, and we were also fortunate to be able to offer some IT equipment such as laptops, mobile phones for those who didn't have one, or a tablet, just to stay connected with the rest of the world, or for the children to stay connected with the schools, do some school works, and to reduce isolation. We have had a lot of support from our partners for referring individuals or families to this project, and it has been going really well. We have helped over almost 300 people for different issues, not just for IT equipment or phone top-ups, but children who needed clothing or emergency appeals. That's all about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanu. And I think many of us who are so privileged to be able to attend this meeting today, we often don't realise just how privileged we are, and how, as Tanu's saying, for children, for a single mother, for example, with 3 kids, you know, there was a very serious choice during this period of is it food on the table, or is it providing allowing my kids, enabling my kids to have access to schooling. Jenny, Jenny Williams I'd like to bring Jenny in because Jenny has also been involved in working very closely with a coalition of organisations called Sisters Not Strangers, and we're very keen for this project to do more than be a simple collection of artworks, but actually to make a difference. And I invite Jenny to talk a little bit about the impact of your Sisters Not Strangers report and the way in which that highlighted some of the issues faced by women in particular.
Great. Well, of course, it's not just me. As a group, the women's group met up first with the Sisters Not Strangers conference in Manchester, right at the very beginning of this year. We'd already been involved with Women for Refugee Women, but this became a coalition of 10 different organisations from major cities across England, as well as ourselves in Wales, and also Oasis in Wales. We've focused on women's issues in particular because the question of domestic violence, the question of destitution affects women much differently to others. I've just seen that Helen's put up the Sisters Not Strangers report. We, between ourselves, worked out a questionnaire which was circulated amongst the organisations, and we had respondents from 115 different asylum seekers and refugees from across the country, across both countries, and were able to produce a very powerful report called Hearers. There's also a video, and if you go on to the Sisters Not Strangers website, Helen has put the link up. I was all ready to do it, but she got in there first. And you will see, if you click on it, Funmi, one of our members from Swansea, opening the video. Thanu was also involved very much in the writing up and recommendations of this report. And Elif has been involved. I noticed that you've joined us, Elif, in recent connections with the group and working out future strategies, which has been great because I have been very busy with work and so had to take a step back for a bit. But the group is a fantastic group. It has loads of resources. I recommend that you visit their website and see the important work that they're doing. I know that, I don't know if I mentioned it, that Olivia is here from that group. There are many other people working incredibly hard across Britain, working particularly with destitution and highlighting the problems of living under lockdown. So, thank you.
Thanks very much, Jenny. There are a number of other different themes that were mentioned. Steve Toombs mentioned an important point in regard to migrant workers who were often not able to go into lockdown, and the proportionate number of deaths. So I wondered if Helen could say a little bit more about, offer us some insights into the experiences of undocumented workers in The Hague.
Yes, I mean, both in The Hague and the UK, frontline workers in the industries where there is no substitute for face-to-face care, that is cleaning staff, hospital support staff, nursing staff, care home staff for the elderly, the disabled, childcare staff as well in nurseries, who we shouldn't forget, and primary teachers, are disproportionately recruited from among Black and ethnic minority communities, as we call them in the UK, and indeed also disproportionately from among women from Black and ethnic minority communities. But if we add in transport, Uber drivers, deliverers, we also have a large proportion of men from Black and minority ethnic communities. And indeed, the governments in the European Union have not been very active or proactive in preventing these deaths. And they've sought perhaps to give some income for a while, but the choice often facing people is between earning income or not earning income, not being able to pay rent, being thrown out of their homes, and being unable to pay for food on the table. So that's really not a choice that any of us can make. And so we've seen very high mortality levels, both in the UK and in the Netherlands, in these sectors where Black and Asian and other minority people are disproportionately represented, and also women. Yeah.
Thank you, Helen. I'd like to go to Ahmed now. Ahmed?
Hello.
Hi. We meet every Friday morning at 9 o'clock, and Ahmed has provided so many really important insights into the experiences that he himself has had. In fact, we met through a BBC Open University co-production, which if you hadn't seen, you really, I really recommend it. It's called Exodus, Our Journeys to Europe. And Ahmed is one of the people whose journeys is featured there. I just wanted to mention that because Ahmed is very modest. But Ahmed, I wanted to ask you about, you know, the point you were making about how lockdown was not a new experience for many refugees. And we did hear that refrain many times. And you also said, which I found very powerful, how lockdown was welcomed in parts of Syria because actually it meant that the bombs stopped. And I wondered if you could talk to that point a little bit.
Exactly. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to kind of reflect on this. Now, I remember the early days when lockdown started, and this was as a person who is from Syria, who constantly is monitoring and following the situation in Syria, while the entire globe seemed to have been, you know, grappling with this unknown virus that has been sweeping through the world. I was in constant contact with some friends and relatives, and some people who were living in areas where there'd be constant bombing and shelling. And I was, you know, following the social media, interacting with them with Facebook and WhatsApp. And something that I found really interesting was the thought that people said that this coronavirus came as a mercy for us, because since the lockdown started, since this came, there's no bombing, there's no shelling, and there is, you know, a sense of security. Because for many of these people, especially for those who've been living in conflict areas, and certainly for those who've been also fled to flee, it's really the question is not about death. It's about what type of death you want to die, like bombing or shelling or chemical weapons or drowning on the sea while you're making the crossing, or being shot down by the snipers when, you know, making this this crossing. So for me, this was really powerful and brought back this concept of, you know, of a sense of normality, because I, as a Syrian refugee who lived and worked in many of these refugee camps, I was struck, really taken aback when I was seeing how some people started to react to the news about lockdown and talking about their freedoms being taken away. Because if you look at the case of many millions of Syrians, many millions of Afghans, many millions of Iraqis, many millions of Sudanese and Congolese and Venezuelans and others worldwide, people have been living in a situation of limbo for many years. And I thought this would provide us with an opportunity to relate to these people's experiences, to the challenges that these people are facing. And this also brings me to the other point that people say that, you know, that this is really challenging and that we're all in this together. While this can be true in many of these cases, but we still need to understand these structural problems. I mean, one of the examples of this has been the issue of digital poverty. I mean, during this lockdown, some of the families were asked to keep their children at home where they can teach them. But I came across some of these families who were really struggling with the very basics of English. So they were unable to teach their children because of the language barrier. They did not have constant access, reliable access to reliable internet. They did not have the software. In many of these cases, they did not have the hardware. So overall, this, I think this has been an opportunity for many of us really to sit back and reflect, because now it makes me so sad when I read news about people not able to go in the UK and perhaps other parts of the world to go and spend the Christmas with their loved ones, with their families, with their grandchildren, with their granddaughters, with their loved ones, with their friends. And for me, as a refugee who lived in this country over the past 5 years and a half, and since fleeing the country in really 2012, all I could ask for at this moment, and I joined these people because this is something I can relate to. I haven't seen my mother, I haven't seen my father since 2012, and I wish that the conflict, you know, the virus of killing, the virus of war would come to an end, and that we will find hopefully a vaccination to end this, like what we are doing now with current COVID-19. So over to you, Marie.
Thank you, Ahmed. I think we can hear and we have seen and felt the strong emotions throughout this this exhibition launch. And so I'd like to go to Carlos. Carlos, are you there? Hello, Carlos. Carlos
Yes,
has
I
an
am.
amazing sort of background of so many different skills and activities, but at our Friday morning meetings, Carlos is the one who brings us back to the question of emotions and the fact that, you know, the pandemic has created this roller coaster, an emotional roller coaster that we're all on. We've got distant proximities. We're physically and socially distant, but emotionally we may be more close. Digitally, we may be more close. Also, if you think about Mary Douglas and her purity and danger, the fact that some people are drawing boundaries due to colour of skin, due to who they see as dangerous and not, and the idea of infectiousness. And all this generates very powerful emotions. So, Carlos, can you talk us through your reflections on the emotional roller coaster that is this pandemic?
Yes, sure, Mary. I have to say I was thinking in a carousel, but you're right, it's more a roller coaster than a carousel. And the point to highlight is experience could be broke anyone. Could be a refugee in a given moment of our life. Maybe not a political refugee, maybe not a humanitarian refugee, but the human being usually look for refugee from the things they can't manage very well. In this project, many people, myself, I have to say, and many people found the way to express in a constructive, creative, also therapeutic way. So it's not just about asking the people, share with me a picture. It's about listening. It's about comprehend and just get some kind of emotional involvement, because at the very end, all of us, we are humans. So when the people found a channel to express and creativity flows, the people heal. So helping others is helping yourself, is my motto. And it's not just words, it's a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those powerful words, Carlos. And I think we're going to draw our proceedings to an end. And Just one final word. Well, if 2020 created a perfect storm with COVID and conflict and climate change, I think 2021 well, we will hopefully see that people will choose solidarity and kindness and care over conflict. So thank you all for joining. Please do look at our websites. Please do, if you so feel, donate to Lesbos Solidarity and to Swansea Asylum Seeker Group. If you look at the websites at the very bottom, you'll find links to those organisations, and it's very, very easy. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank you all very much for coming. I'd like to thank our wonderful team for all the hard work that you have invested in what was quite a precarious exhibition. If you knew some of the backstory about our digital problems. But thank you all, and we wish you all a very peaceful and relaxing Christmas break. Stay safe and lots of love.
Thank you very much, everyone. And again, just to mention, let's continue this conversation, and please follow us on our social media, follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, do check our website, and let's keep in touch. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. And in advance, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year for those who are celebrating. All the best.
And can we thank Marie particularly?
Marie.
Yeah.
Well done, Marie.
No, please, no, this is truly a collective effort. I deserve no thanks. I'm just the one who whips everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
So this is the
Ahmed has to remember to get the chat and the participants list. That's all. Capture the chat and the participant list. I don't know how it's done.
Helen, I put a link to the actual report.
I know, but it wasn't live, so that's why I did it again.
Is it not live?
It wasn't clickable, but it was the right link, but it wasn't clickable. So I went to the site and just copied it live. That's all. That's why I did it again.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because you'd already done it once. But
I did the website before. It wasn't the report.
Right.
Yeah. That was amazing.
It went brilliantly.
Oh my goodness, folks. Well done. I think some participants are still here. Maybe they want to chat afterwards. They're very welcome. We're now finished. So if anyone's devoted enough to stay here now, they can ask us some questions. Why not?
Mm.
I'm trying to copy the chat actually as well, just in case.
This is Carlos's horse ranch.
Oh, whoa! This is the after party. I will show the real one. Give me a chance.
Yeah.
I thought this was Hold Your Horses.
I missed this joke. All I know is Carlos's joke.
Okay, Tanu.
Cheer us up every week.
This is the real one. Its toy, its fleece toy, is a present when I left. You know, when I stopped to work for me, so they know Penlang is surrounded by many horses.
All your horses.
So lovely.
Yes, pen plan your bus journeys. They're
Hold your horse.
heroic journeys. Copy them.
Right. Kayun, how are you? Oh, she's gone.
Is Ahmad still there? No, he's gone, hasn't he?
He's gone, yeah.
I hope he's copied the list, because he's the only one who can, as far as I'm trying to copy it myself, but it's actually not copying.
I tried that as well. I couldn't see all of it.
I can't even copy the chat properly. It kind of copies. Is that crickets?
Yes, hello, Marie.
Not too late.
Come on, copy.
Hello? What? I didn't understand that. Did you get that from Marie?
No.
Yeah.
Right, well, I think I'm going.
All right. I'm going to try and copy the chat because I'm still in it somehow.
Right. Okay. Bye then. Bye.
Later. Bye, folks.
I think Marie wanted to have a chat. Quick debrief.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. On here. Yeah. Okay then.
To go to
On
work.
here or through Zoom?
So I'm going to copy this now and then go.
Where's Ahmed, by the way? He has to.
Yeah, he has to do a few things before he goes off. That's
yeah. Maybe he's just
participants.
And kicked out.
You know, the participants have already checked out, so I think we can find it later who took part.
Yeah, you can find from the
Once
chat.
you've closed it down, it's difficult to get hold of it.
Right.
We have to hang on until Ahmed comes. At least you have to hang on because I need to go now.
Have you got a meeting?
No, I need to take Neja to a hospital appointment, so I'm going to go. I removed all the participants, all the non-partners from the meeting. You know, if you have seen somebody doing spotlights and so on, it was me doing it in the background, Carlos. It wasn't a ghost.
Sorry. I missed it. What did you say?
No, I said, if you have seen somebody doing spotlights and so on, it was me.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, Mary has sent a Zoom link. Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
All right, I'm off. Bye. Have a good time.
We've
And
got
then if I don't see you before, Merry Christmas, but I'll probably see everyone else.
Tanu, we've got a Sisters Not Strangers party tonight. Are you coming?
I haven't got the invitation. I'll try.
I can send it to you.
Okay, I'll try. All right, see you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Happy Christmas.
Are not we having a meeting now?
I need to go, but I can join on WhatsApp if we go on WhatsApp.
Fine.
But let Ahmed finish his job.
Merry Christmas.
Send us Zoom link on email. It's on Zoom.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Helen. Bye-bye, Tanu.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.